Pete Hegseth, President-elect Donald Trump's pick to be the next Secretary of Defense, trying desperately today to salvage his embattled nomination, launching a public campaign against a flood of reports accusing him of sexual misconduct, drunken behavior in the workplace, financial mismanagement. He's trying to keep Republican senators in his corner. The day began with the former Fox News host actually having his mom pay a visit to his old stomping ground. Hegseth's mother, Penelope Hegseth, has become part of the story after the New York Times uncovered an email to her son in 2018 where she condemned him as someone who, quote, cheats, sleeps around, uses women for his own power and ego. Well, today, Penelope Hegseth actually called senators on her son's behalf. She appeared on Fox and Friends, where she tried to sort of take her 2018 comments back.
He is the most faithful patriot of this country. He loves his country, loves his country. He's fought and almost died for his country. He's a good dad. He's an amazing son and father, and that's the Pete I want people to know. Yeah. And then I want to say one more thing. I said I believe he's the man for the job, but more than that, I believe he's the man for such a time as this.
Later in the day, he sat down with his former colleague, Megyn Kelly, who actually campaigned for Trump. Not surprisingly, Hegseth attacked the media and argued he's the target of a political hit job.
What you're seeing right now with me is the art of the smear. It is the classic art of the smear. Take whatever tiny kernels of truth, and there are tiny, tiny ones in there, and blow them up into a masquerade of a narrative about somebody that I am definitely not.
And he claimed the president-elect is still on his side, despite numerous reports that Trump is considering now replacing Hegseth with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. There's some others who are being talked about. Hegseth said he spoke with Trump today and that he urged him not to withdraw.
You know, the media is driving with this ridiculous narrative. It's our time to stand up and tell the truth, and our side. And he knows that. And so he supports me. We talked, I won't betray what we talked about specifically, but he said, you all meet those senators and I've got your back.
All right. So does he survive? Let's ask Kevin McCarthy, former Speaker of the House and the founder of the just-launched Alpha Institute, a new think tank whose goal is to get the U.S. to win the technological space race. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, so we got a lot to talk about. First, let's talk Pete Hegseth. Does he survive this?
It's still out there. He's got to answer these questions. But, you know, I've known Pete for a long time, long before he was ever announced for this job. And I've watched him work with, how I met him is working with veterans, working with the armed forces. He does have a real passion. He is exceptionally bright. He's a Harvard, I think Princeton or Yale. I mean, he's qualified here. But you're not just going to be given the job. There are questions, and there are a number of senators. And remember, if 4 Republicans say no, you're not going to get...
And if you're gaming in this out, do you think he survives that?
I think the next week will tell you that. The next week. I mean, I don't like to be hearing rumors coming up somebody else is about to take your place. That's a tough place. But he's fighting back, but we'll see.
Senate Democrats are saying it's dead. Take that with a grain of salt?
Well, the Democrats are going to vote no completely.
Right.
With Marco Rubio, they'll vote for him, and I think they'll vote for a few others. But he's going to have to answer these questions. And what you want to do is give him the benefit of the doubt, let him get before the committee. You know, he's not even to the full Senate yet. He hasn't even gone to the committee yet. Let him go through. This is the Armed Services Committee. They'll ask the tough questions, and that'll be the first judge. You got to get through that hurdle before you get to the next.
Do you think there's any strategy here on the part of the president-elect to sort of pick some people he knows are going to have to be sacrificial lambs, like your old friend Matt Gaetz?
Well, no one believed Matt would ever get there.
But so what was the point, do you think, then, of nominating him?
Well, I blame Matt for lying to the president, because what Matt needed to get out of Congress before the ethics report came out on Friday, I don't believe he told President Trump that. And so I know the president was having a hard time finding who for attorney general, so Matt wanted an out. He wanted an excuse to resign, even though other people have been nominated, but they didn't resign from Congress. But Matt couldn't have that. Remember, the whole reason I am not Speaker today is because Matt wanted me to stop the ethics report because he had slept with a 17-year-old, and that was coming forward, and he needed a way out. I think lying to the president wasn't right on Matt's behalf.
But do you think this was a plan?
No.
So you think the president legitimately wanted Matt Gaetz to be the attorney general?
I think he thought he would be in there protective. I don't think anyone thought Matt would ever get there.
Including President Trump?
You'd have to ask him.
Yeah. You mentioned about the ethics report. There's still discussions about whether that should be released publicly.
It should be. I mean,
yeah?
Look, Matt's biggest bill in Congress was to have about stock trades transparency. He always argues about transparency. And if he says he hasn't done this, why don't you clear his name? Put the report out there then. I mean, wouldn't he want to clear his own name? So put the report out, have transparency, especially if Matt says he wants to run for another office. I think the public should know what the truth is.
Have you seen this? Do you know what's in that report? But do you know what's in it?
No. I'm not on ethics. As Speaker of the House, I couldn't get involved in it. And so from that standpoint, if Matt is innocent in some way, I mean, he went for...
But you said he slept with a 17-year-old. You're confident of that?
People who represent the 17-year-old has said
that
yes.
I know, yeah.
And they have said yes, they've gone to ethics and said that. Others who are in jail said that. Others have said he supplied them drugs and then slept with them. You have Venmo payments. I mean, it seems like everything's there, so it seemed pretty truthful. But if Matt says that's not, then why don't you bring the truth out and let everybody have that decision? Look, Matt has gone a long way. He made a motion to remove the speaker because I wouldn't stop the ethics report. He resigned from Congress 2 days before the ethics report became public, trying to get the ethics report not to go out. I think he would be concerned probably what's in it. So,
is it going to come out?
I hope so.
Do you think it will?
Congress has to vote on it. It seems as there's enough facts out now that... The other thing, too, is, you know, there was a report out where these young women, they need justice. These young women are still in therapy, and the FBI, it said that the FBI was still paying for it. Here's Matt out making money on Venmo. Shouldn't that money go to these young women and their therapy? Don't they need justice, too?
You think it's possible he may still end up getting some sort of role in the administration? I mean, there's still talk of the possibility that...
To me, that would... The country's too great for that. And I think the public knows too much. I think these young women need justice. That's what really should happen.
Donald Trump seems to like him, though, more than you do, right?
I don't know who really likes him.
You know, I've always wanted to ask you about this moment, the moment with Tim Burchett that happened back in the day where he claimed you elbowed him in the back and he called you a bully. And what happened there? Did you guys ever bury the hatchet on that?
No. What transpired is it's down in the basement and you're coming out of a meeting. And I don't know if you've ever been in that. It's very narrow. And I'm talking to another member. You could actually, Bruce Westerman, you could ask Bruce Westerman what happens. And then the press is all lined up, so it even makes it more narrow. And as I'm talking, turning to my left, talking to Bruce Westerman, I don't know, my shoulder must have hit him or something. I never knew it transpired. I kept on walking, and then he came running up to me. I don't know what transpired here. And so he seems a little concerned about life. I don't think that'd be that big a deal. If I would have bumped him, he would have known it.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. I want to switch gears here. Let's talk about the Hunter Biden pardon. Your former colleagues now seem like they want to press forward with continuing the investigation of Hunter Biden. You think it's a good use of time at this point? Well,
you want to clarify it out because there's a concern here. The way the president wrote the pardon. Remember, first he said he had never provided. But now that he has pardoned Hunter Biden could no longer take the fifth.
That's right.
He should come in to clear up, because it wasn't just about Hunter Biden. There was money coming from China, money coming from Russia. I think you want to finish the circle and see where it all went to. Was there influence being involved or not? So
but he testified already, right? He testified in front of Congress behind closed doors.
There's a lot of questions still out there. There's a lot of bank statements still to go. I just think it'd be transparency, a way you could clean it up. I don't think it'd take that much more time to investigate, because they had so much, they could finish it off quickly.
Some on the right now also want to investigate the prosecutor, David Weiss, long Republican prosecutor, saying he didn't do enough. It's a guy who prosecuted the president's son. He won the case. And now Jim Jordan just saying that he's concerned still and wants to bring David Weiss in. I mean...
Well, that doesn't mean prosecuting Weiss.
No, I'm not saying prosecuting Weiss. I mean investigating Weiss, asking Weiss more questions.
I don't think it's investigating. I think people are misusing that.
All right.
I believe in continual improvement. And, you know, look, Weiss could have done a very good job. So why don't you find what went right, what went wrong, and as we go forward to make sure people aren't using prosecuting for political basis. I'm not judging based upon who you are. It's just on the facts. And that's always good to have, because it's not like Jim Jordan can bring him in and not have Democrats there too. But I think we've got to move beyond this and start to gut.
Well, let me play. I'm going to play what Jim Jordan said. This is number 6. Here he is on Fox News on Monday night.
We're going to look at David Weiss. Remember, though, Congress has a strong history of looking at special counsels, getting a report from them, bringing them in for a hearing or deposition, or maybe both.
Talking about looking, I mean, looking at David Weiss, there's a lot of people on your side of the aisle who are still mad at David Weiss, even though he prosecuted Hunter.
Yeah, but I take what he said, but I'm listening to what he said, right? Yeah. And you're emphasizing, look, what he's really saying in the history, after you have a special prosecutor, it's just like you have an inspector general. After they do a report, they come in and brief the committee. I take what he's saying to be that. Come in and brief what you found as a special prosecutor as you went through for both sides to know.
Were you surprised at the pardon?
I thought he would always pardon, but why did the president lie to him?
I agree. I mean, and I said the same thing.
I think the way he wrote the pardon was pretty bad. Why? Because he picked one date and said, you're innocent for everything you've done that entire time.
Well, he's obviously worried that the Kash Patel-led FBI is going to potentially go after him.
You know what's interesting? I watched this, and I watched President Trump's 4 years. He didn't go after anyone. It's almost like at times they get this Trump syndrome that they want to use the court system, go after President Trump because they're afraid he would win and do the exact same thing they're doing. I think we got to get beyond this. The Democrats want to
tell the guy then, if you want to get beyond it, isn't he the exact guy who's not going to get beyond it? If all the people to pick.
I think you're judging Kash Patel maybe on one interview. And the one thing I would say is Trey Gowdy, an amazing prosecutor, a very fair man that I've watched all the time and a dear friend. And he will tell you that he thinks Kash Patel can do the job. And he would be the first one to tell you if he did not. This is a man who was a DA, prosecuted all of his own cases, won every single one. And everyone will tell you the FBI needs to be cleaned up. So, I mean, for the same fate, Kash has to go through the Senate and see all where it's at. But I do think the American public has to have a system that people trust that's not being used for political reasons.
But you think that Republican Chris Wray led the FBI, and there's never been a Democrat who's led the FBI, that he was using it for political purposes?
Look, I don't claim that to any of them. But the one thing I will say, early on, I had to send a letter to Chris Wray to get information that he wouldn't provide to the House. And then I had to threaten to hold him in contempt. Then I had to call him on the phone. And what he told me at that time, why he wasn't provided, I said on the Gang of Eight, just wasn't hanging there true. And I think we've come to a point where people forget Congress does have an oversight responsibility in the Constitution. And I think these agencies, and I'm not claiming, okay, this one's Republican or Democrat, I think it's built over each administration as it's gone on. We really need an honest check and balance. And I think that's what the American public's looking for. They're tired of people using impeachment because they dislike someone. They're tired of one party just going after, you're somebody's son, so I'm going after you. Let's just base it upon the rule of law. You know, you're an attorney. You look at Lady Justice. There's a reason she has a blindfold, and there's a reason there's an equal scale there. We want to get back to that.
But again, that's why I just keep wondering if the notion is that Chris Wray has been the one creating that imbalance, right? He's a lifelong Republican. He's responded to...
I don't think it matters what party you're on, whether... I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, you're a Republican, so you're 100% right, or you're a Democrat.
No, I'm not talking 100%, but the idea that it's weaponized, right?
I think the FBI has a trust problem with the American public.
They do.
And so if you have been the leader of it, and I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, but if you've been a leader of this agency and the public still feels that way,
that's a different issue.
Change the leadership. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I hear you. So, so let me talk about this think tank that you're now involved with. The goal is to get the U.S. to win the technological space race. I've got to believe that's going to cost money, right? No, it's not, because you got Vivek and you got Elon Musk ready to cut.
Well, what has Elon been able to do? Elon created the first American-built rocket. Before, we would buy it just from Russia. And American companies wanted to keep doing that when others would make the investment with Elon. What I found as being a member of Congress is not just the space race, it's the future, okay? So there are many issues that we can't solve by one party. If you look at our debt, you look at the battle with China, if you look at AI and quantum, whoever captures that really has the advantage going forward. But energy. whoever's going to capture AI is first going to capture energy, because these data centers. So you've got to talk about all the above. Nuclear, you've got to expand your grid. And what I have found by being a member of Congress and now being on the outside, you get bogged down on the small things and you're not looking for the next 50 years. So how can I help being on the outside on the policy?
So how are you going to do that?
So this is what I'm doing. There's a number of members I helped go in. I understand what the policy we have to do. I created the Select Committee on China when I became Speaker. It's the most bipartisan group, worked the best as it's gone through. I want to help them, and I was working with the president on this, permitting reform, okay? We've got to unleash American energy, and you can't be sitting picking and choosing, because if we get energy right, we'll capture AI. MIT teaches a course for all the generals in our military in AI and quantum. I went there 4 years ago with 10 members, and I had them create a course for every single member in Congress. We've got to get that right to be able to win. The next future does. The next war will start in space. If you look at war today, it's not having one big $10 million missile knocking down a $10 drone, right? So what you really need, you need to change the permitting process, or the procurement process in defense. It's who can overwhelm. So what we really have to do, instead of just throwing money at the problem, we've got to be smarter. We've got to bring Silicon Valley to the Pentagon. We've got to get energy where people are stopping the fighting, saying it will only be renewable, or only going to be natural gas. No, we need all of it, and we need small nuclear. Look what Meta just did. So Meta is going in trying to do a small nuclear facility for their data center. And what's going to happen is, if we can't build the data centers and we can't build the chips, somebody else is going to get ahead of us. And if we sit and finally look at Congress today, they can't even decide on the funding from last year they're taking into the next year. If they can't decide the small things, how can they ever plan for the future? So I'm bringing people on both sides of the aisle, people that aren't in government, people who are in the private sector. Let's put America first. This is like the Oppenheimer. This is the moment in time that we have to make sure the next 100 years is the American century.
I wish you the best of luck with it.
Well, thank you so much.
Great to meet you in person. Appreciate you coming on.
Glad to be here.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.